Conflict ignites. The Council moves against us. Humanity answers with wrath. Admiral Marcus Reynolds took a deep breath as he entered the massive chamber of the Galactic Assembly. The Grand Hall stretched before him, filled with representatives from 200 different species. As the sole human delegate, he felt all eyes on him. The Council of Seven sat on a raised platform at the front. These were the most powerful beings in the galaxy, leaders of the oldest and most advanced civilizations. Reynolds had been called to an emergency session, but no one would tell him why. The Council recognizes the human representative, announced the Archivian delegate, Ambassador Thallus. His blue, translucent skin pulsed with light as he spoke. Reynolds approached the speaking platform. "Thank you, Honorable Council. May I ask why this emergency session was called?" The Council members exchanged glances. The tallest among them, High Commander Drovax of the Hegemony, leaned forward. His scaled face showed no emotion. "Representative Reynolds, the Council has been monitoring Earth's activities with growing concern," Drovax said. "In just 50 years since joining the galactic community, humans have expanded to 12 star systems and developed military technology at an alarming rate." Reynolds frowned. "We've broken no treaties. Every expansion was into unclaimed space. The pace of your advancement threatens galactic stability," interrupted Counselor Arax of the Meridian Collective. "Your species moves too quickly, takes too many risks." Ambassador Tholas stood and unrolled a formal document. "The Council has voted unanimously. Earth is hereby ordered to disarm its military fleets, surrender faster than light technology, and accept oversight outposts throughout human territory. You have 30 standard days to comply." Reynolds couldn't believe what he was hearing. This wasn't negotiation. It was the first step toward making humans a servant species. "This is outrageous," Reynolds said, trying to keep his voice calm. "Earth will never accept these terms. We have the right to defend ourselves and develop as we see fit." "Your cooperation is not requested, Admiral," Drovax said coldly. "It is required." "The vote has been taken." Reynolds looked around the chamber, searching for any sign of support. Most representatives avoided his gaze. A few nodded in agreement with the Council. "I must return to Earth immediately to report this to our government," Reynolds said. "I'm afraid that won't be possible," Drovax replied. Security detained the human representative. Guards moved toward Reynolds from all sides. This had been planned from the start. They never intended to let him warn Earth. As the guards approached, a commotion erupted at the back of the chamber. A slender figure in diplomatic robes rushed forward. "Point of order," the figure called out. It was Kira, a junior diplomat from the Proximian delegation. Reynolds had met her at several functions but didn't know her well. "The Council cannot detain a representative without formal charges being filed," Kira announced loudly. "This violates Section 17 of the Assembly Charter." The interruption caused just enough confusion for Reynolds to slip away from the approaching guards. Kira appeared at his side. "This way," she whispered. "My ship is ready. Why are you helping me?" Reynolds asked as they hurried down a side corridor. "Not all of us agree with the Council's decision," she replied. "Some believe this action against Earth is just the beginning." Alarms began to sound throughout the complex. Reynolds and Kira ran faster, pushing through startled diplomatic staff. "The transport bay is ahead," Kira said. "My ship has diplomatic clearance." As they entered the bay, security forces burst in from another entrance. Laser fire scorched the wall near Reynolds' head. They reached Kira's ship, a sleek diplomatic vessel. The entry ramp lowered. "Get in," Kira shouted. Reynolds didn't need to be told twice. Once inside, Kira rushed to the controls. "They'll never let us leave," Reynolds said. "They won't have a choice," Kira replied, activating the engines. "Diplomatic vessels have automated departure protocols. They can't override them without violating about 50 different treaties." The ship lifted off smoothly and accelerated toward the bay doors, which opened automatically. "We still need to get through the defense grid," Reynolds noted. "I have clearance codes," Kira said, "but they won't work for long once they realize what's happening." The ship shot out of the assembly station and into open space. Behind them, alarm lights flashed across the station's surface. "Why did you risk everything to help me?" Reynolds asked. Kira turned from the controls. "Because I accessed classified files. This isn't just about humans. The hegemony is pushing for control of the entire council. Your species is just the first target because you're seen as the biggest threat." "What files?" Kira activated a hidden compartment in the ship's wall. She removed a small data crystal. This contains proof. The Council has already prepared a first strike against Earth's core worlds. They plan to attack in 3 days, catching your defenses completely off guard. Reynolds stared at the crystal in shock. We need to warn Earth immediately. We will, Kira assured him. But first we need to escape. As if on cue, the ship's sensors blared warnings. 3 Council interceptors had launched from the station and were moving to cut off their escape route. Can we outrun them? Reynolds asked. Not in normal space, Kira replied. But if we can reach the jump point, my ship's FTL drive can get us away. The interceptors were gaining rapidly. Weapons lock warnings flashed across the control panel. They're firing! Kira shouted. The ship rocked as energy blasts struck their shields. Kira performed evasive maneuvers, but the interceptors stayed on their tail. Shields at 60%, the ship's computer announced. The jump point is still 2 minutes away, Kira said. We won't make it. Reynolds studied the tactical display. There's another way. See that asteroid field? If we can reach it, their sensors won't be able to track us effectively. Kira nodded and changed course. The ship dove toward a dense cluster of space rocks. The interceptors followed, still firing. Another hit rocked the ship. Shields at 30%, the computer warned. Almost there, Kira said through gritted teeth. The ship slipped into the asteroid field. Massive rocks tumbled around them as Kira navigated through the dangerous terrain. One interceptor pulled back, unwilling to risk the dangerous conditions. The other 2 continued the pursuit. They're still on us, Reynolds observed. Not for long, Kira replied. She cut the main engines and activated thrusters, sending the ship into a spin. They slipped behind a large asteroid. What are you doing? Reynolds asked, making us disappear. She activated a control. This ship has stealth capabilities, not standard for diplomatic vessels. The ship's energy signature faded to almost nothing. The interceptors flew past their hiding spot, searching in the wrong direction. How did you get a ship like this? Reynolds asked suspiciously. I'm not just a junior diplomat, Kira admitted. I work for Proximian Intelligence. We've been monitoring the hegemony's growing influence for years. After the interceptors moved deeper into the asteroid field, Kira carefully guided the ship out and toward the jump point. We're clear, she announced, preparing for FTL jump. As the FTL drive charged, Reynolds examined the data crystal. Even with this evidence, we'll barely have time to prepare. That's why we need to hurry, Kira said. The jump to Earth will take 18 hours. During that time, I can brief you on everything I know. The ship shuddered as a final energy blast caught their rear section. Warning lights flashed across the controls. FTL drive damaged, the computer announced. Operating at reduced efficiency. Can we still make the jump? Reynolds asked urgently. Kira's fingers danced across the controls. Yes, but it will take longer. Maybe 30 hours instead of 18. And the ship is badly damaged. We'll be limping all the way. Earth has no idea what's coming, Reynolds said grimly. Every hour counts. The ship entered the jump point, disappearing in a flash of light. Behind them, more Council ships converged on their last position. In the swirling dimension of hyperspace, Reynolds stared at the evidence of the Council's betrayal. Earth had always known making allies would be difficult, but they never expected this level of treachery. When we arrive, he said quietly, Earth will be ready. If the Council wants war, they'll learn why humans were never to be underestimated. Kira looked at him with concern. You're outnumbered and outgunned. What can Earth possibly do against the combined might of the Council? Reynolds smiled grimly. You'll see. The Council thinks they know humanity. They don't, not really. When threatened, we don't cower. We fight back. And trust me, the Council has no idea what they've just started. The damaged ship limped through hyperspace carrying a warning that would change the galaxy forever. Behind them, Council forces prepared for what they believed would be a quick subjugation. Ahead lay Earth, blissfully unaware that in 3 days everything would change. The clock was ticking. Conflict ignites. The Council moves against us. Humanity answers with wrath defense. Director Eliana Vega stared at the fragmented transmission on her screen. Admiral Reynolds' face appeared and disappeared through waves of static. Council, betrayal, attack imminent. 3 days to prepare, the message cut off. Vega tried to re-establish the connection but failed. She reached for her emergency communicator. Get me the president now, she ordered, and sound the defense alert. Code red. Alarms began to blare throughout the defense command bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Officers rushed to their stations as screens lit up across the control center. Ma'am, called out Lieutenant Park from the sensor station, we're detecting multiple energy signatures entering the solar system. They don't match any known friendly vessels. Vega's blood ran cold. How many? At least 30 large warships, ma'am. And they're moving fast. The 3 days Reynolds had warned about had shrunk to mere minutes. The Council fleet must have launched immediately after Reynolds escaped. President Tanis Torres appeared on the main screen, her face grim. Director Vega, what's happening? Madam President, we're under attack. Council forces have entered the system. Admiral Reynolds managed to send a warning, but they're already here. How bad is it? Before Vega could answer, the lieutenant called out again. Energy spikes detected. They're firing on the Luna base. On the tactical display, bright flashes appeared around Earth's moon. The defense platforms orbiting Luna base, humanity's first line of protection, began to go dark one by one. Luna base has been hit, Vega reported. Orbital defenses are failing. Madam President, I recommend activating Protocol Prometheus. The President's expression hardened. Are you certain? Yes, ma'am. This isn't a border skirmish. This is a full-scale invasion. After a moment of heavy silence, President Torres nodded. Activate Protocol Prometheus. God help us all. Vega turned to her command staff. You heard the President. Initiate Protocol Prometheus. Throughout the solar system, hidden installations that had been prepared in secret for this very day began to power up. Deep within the asteroid belt, camouflaged structures shed their disguises, revealing military bases equipped with advanced weapon systems. In the shadow of Jupiter, dormant battle fleets stirred to life, their engines glowing as they prepared to defend humanity. Above Earth, the planetary shields activated as the first wave of Council bombardment began. The shields glowed bright blue under the assault, holding for now but already showing signs of strain. Status of Luna base? Vega demanded. 70% destroyed, came the grim reply. Commander Jackson reports they're trying to maintain what's left of the orbital cannons. The main screen switched to show Commander Jackson's face, bloodied and lit by emergency lights. Smoke filled the command center behind him. Luna base won't hold much longer, Jackson reported, his voice steady despite the chaos. But we'll give you as much time as we can. Jackson, get your people out of there, Vega ordered. With respect, ma'am, someone needs to manually target the remaining cannons. Automated systems are down. Vega wanted to argue but knew he was right. Do what you can, Commander, and... Thank you. Jackson nodded grimly before the connection cut out. In the war room beneath the White House, President Torres convened an emergency meeting with military leaders and scientific advisors. What options do we have? She asked. General Rodriguez pointed to the tactical display. The hidden fleets from Jupiter and the asteroid belt are moving to engage, but they're outnumbered. Our best hope is to hold out until Admiral Reynolds returns with the evidence of Council betrayal. If other species learn that the Council attacked without provocation, we might gain allies. We may not have that much time, Dr. Takahashi said. The planetary shields won't last more than 6 hours under this level of bombardment. President Torres studied the display. Then we use everything we have. Activate the Artemis weapons. The room fell silent. The Artemis project had been developed in secret after first contact. When humanity realized how outmatched they were technologically, the weapons were experimental, powerful, and untested in actual combat. Madam President, General Rodriguez said carefully, the Artemis weapons are still in development. We don't know if they'll work as intended. We're out of options, General. Launch the Artemis weapons. On the tactical display, Luna base's last defenses fell. Commander Jackson's final act was to target the lead Council ship, scoring a direct hit before the base exploded in a brilliant flash. Vega bowed her head briefly for the fallen, then turned her attention to the Artemis launch. Preparing Artemis weapons for deployment, she announced. Target the enemy's main battle group. From hidden silos on Earth and Mars, sleek missiles launched into space. They looked insignificant compared to the massive Council warships. But they carried humanity's most advanced technology. Quantum disruptors designed to bypass enemy shields by partially shifting into another dimension. The Council ships detected the launch and attempted to intercept the missiles, but their weapons passed harmlessly through them. The missiles struck their targets, creating strange distortions in space around the Council ships. 5 enemy vessels twisted and broke apart as their atomic structure was disrupted at the quantum level. A cheer went up in the command center, but Vega remained focused.
Status report.
5 enemy ships destroyed, ma'am. The rest are adjusting their formation. They seem confused by our weapons. Good. Launch the second wave and prepare the orbital defense grid for close-range engagement. The battle for Earth continued to rage. Council ships pressed their attack, focusing their fire on the weakening planetary shields. Earth's hidden forces fought back fiercely, using hit-and-run tactics to strike the larger enemy fleet. 6 hours into the battle, a communication came through on a secure channel. It originated from the Proximian Embassy in Geneva, one of the few alien outposts that had not been evacuated. "This is Ambassador Jorax of Proxima," the message began. "We do not support the Council's actions against Earth. We can provide tactical information about Council ship vulnerabilities. Their command vessels have a weakness in their rear shield generators." The information was quickly relayed to the battle groups. Human ships began targeting the weak points, destroying 2 more Council command vessels. As the first day of war neared its end, both sides had taken heavy losses. The Council's initial advantage had been blunted by humanity's unexpected weapons and hidden forces, but Earth remained in grave danger. The planetary shields were failing, and several major cities had already suffered damage from weapons that broke through. In the command bunker, Director Vega received an unexpected update from the diplomatic corps. "Ma'am, we've analyzed the Council communication patterns during the battle. Something strange is happening. The Viren ships aren't fully participating in the attack. They're holding position at the edge of the battle." Vega frowned. "The Virens?" "They're one of the Council races. Why wouldn't they join the attack?" "Unknown, ma'am. But intelligence suggests they may have abstained from the vote to attack Earth. This was potentially valuable information. If there were cracks in the Council's unity, humanity might find allies among their enemies." President Torres joined Vega in the command center, looking exhausted but determined after 20 hours without sleep. "What's our status, Director?" "We've destroyed 12 enemy ships and damaged at least 8 more, Vega reported. But our planetary shields are at 18%. Another 6 hours of bombardment and they'll fail completely. And the Artemis weapons? We've used 60% of our supply. Production facilities are working at maximum capacity, but it takes time to create more." The President nodded grimly. "We need to buy that time." "What about the Lazarus Protocol?" Vega hesitated. "It's ready but untested. The risk is significant. The risk of doing nothing is greater," Torres replied. "Prepare to implement Lazarus Protocol at dawn." As darkness fell over North America, the sky above was lit by distant explosions as human and Council ships clashed in orbit. Emergency services worked tirelessly to evacuate coastal cities, which would be most vulnerable when the shields failed. In a secure laboratory beneath Mount Fuji, Dr. Akira Tanaka worked frantically to finalize the Lazarus Protocol, a last resort defense system that would temporarily transform Earth's atmosphere into a weapon. The science was revolutionary but dangerous. If it worked, it would buy humanity precious time. If it failed, it could destroy the very planet they were trying to save. Aboard the flagship of the Council fleet, High Commander Drovax received troubling reports. The human resistance was far stronger than anticipated. Their hidden fleets and unexpected weapons had turned what should have been a quick victory into a costly battle. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his subordinates. "Their technology should be decades behind ours." "They must have been preparing for this scenario since first contact," his second-in-command replied. "And there's more. The Viren vessels are not responding to coordination orders. They claim communication difficulties." Drovax's scaled face darkened with anger. "The Virens are having doubts. This is unacceptable. Send a direct order. They will join the attack or face consequences from the full Council." CS. For the first time, Earth's leaders had confirmation that the Council was not as united as it appeared. Our conflict ignites. The Council moves against us. Humanity answers with wrath. 2 weeks after the initial Council assault, Earth was still fighting. The Lazarus Protocol had worked, transforming the upper atmosphere into a field that disrupted enemy targeting systems. This temporary advantage had allowed human forces to regroup and strengthen their defenses. In a hidden military base beneath the Atlantic Ocean, Colonel Darius Wells studied holographic displays showing his fleet of stealth ships. The 30 vessels looked small and insignificant compared to the massive Council warships, but they carried humanity's newest weapon, the quantum disruptors, now miniaturized and mass-produced. All ships report ready. Colonel, his executive officer announced. Wells nodded. Begin Operation Spearhead. Remind all captains. Complete radio silence until we reach the target. Across the command center, officers relayed the orders. The fleet of stealth ships powered up their engines and departed one by one through underwater tunnels that led to the open ocean. Once at the surface, they activated their specialized drives and shot into the sky. Unlike conventional ships, these vessels used no visible propulsion in space. They moved silently through the void, cloaked from enemy sensors by technology that bent light and other radiation around them. Their target, Centauri Prime, the Council's primary military staging area and the launch point for reinforcements heading to Earth. As the stealth fleet departed, Dr. Amara Okafor worked tirelessly in her laboratory in Nairobi. For days, she had been analyzing captured Council communication devices, trying to decode their encryption. Now surrounded by screens filled with alien symbols, she was close to a breakthrough. There's a pattern here, she muttered to herself, adjusting her algorithms. Their language is complex, but the mathematical structure beneath it is consistent. A sudden chime from her computer signaled success. Council communications began to translate into readable text across her screens. What she found made her immediately reach for the secure line to Defense Command. This is Dr. Okafor. I need to speak with Director Vega immediately. I've decoded their communications and there's something she needs to see. Meanwhile, Admiral Reynolds and his Proximian ally Kira had reached the neutral world of Tau Ceti. Their journey had taken longer than planned due to the damage their ship had sustained, but now they stood before representatives from 12 non-Council species. The meeting took place in an underground chamber, away from potential Council spies. Reynolds presented the evidence of the Council's unprovoked attack and the hegemony's manipulation. The attack on Earth is just the beginning, he explained. The hegemony is using humanity as a test case. If they succeed in subjugating us, your worlds will be next. A tall, tentacled delegate from the Andorian Federation spoke up. Your evidence is compelling, Admiral. But what can we do? Our combined forces are still no match for the Council's military. We don't need to match them ship for ship, Reynolds replied. We need targeted support. Medical supplies, intelligence, safe passage for refugees, and most importantly, political pressure. If enough neutral worlds speak out against this unprovoked aggression, it could force more Council members to question the hegemony's leadership. As the delegates discussed their options, a commotion erupted at the chamber entrance. Security personnel surrounded a group of armed intruders attempting to force their way in. Assassins, someone shouted. Take cover! Reynolds pulled Kira behind a column as energy weapons fired across the chamber. The neutral world security forces returned fire, but they were outnumbered. Just as the situation seemed dire, a new group entered the fray. Tall, silver-skinned warriors in distinctive armor engaged the assassins with precise, devastating attacks. Within moments, the threat was neutralized. The leader of the silver-skinned warriors approached Reynolds. Admiral Reynolds, I am Commander Zayler of the Viren Peacekeepers. We were sent to ensure your safety. Reynolds stared in shock. The Virens? But you're part of the Council. Why would you protect me? Not all Council members agreed with the decision to attack Earth. Zayler explained. My people abstained from the vote. We believe the hegemony is manipulating the Council for their own purposes. This confirmation of divided Council loyalty changed everything. With Viren support, the possibility of breaking the Council's unity became real. While diplomacy progressed on Tau Ceti, Colonel Wells's stealth fleet approached Centauri Prime. The massive military base orbited a red dwarf star, its defenses designed to repel conventional attacks. But the human vessels were anything but conventional. All ships in position, Wells' executive officer reported. Ready to fire on your command. Wells took a deep breath. Target their communication arrays and shield generators. Fire. Across the formation, stealth ships launched quantum disruptors. The weapons phased through Centauri Prime's shields as if they weren't there, materializing inside to strike critical systems. Explosions bloomed across the station's surface as its defenses failed. Second wave, target their docked warships, Wells ordered. Another volley of weapons struck the unprepared Council vessels. 3 massive warships broke apart under the assault, their reactor cores detonating in brilliant flashes. The station's remaining defenses activated, firing blindly into space, hoping to hit the invisible attackers. A few lucky shots found their targets, destroying 2 human vessels. "We've lost the Everest and the Kilimanjaro," the tactical officer reported. Wells honored the fallen with a moment of silence before continuing. "All ships, complete your assigned targets and prepare for jump to the extraction point." The battle for Centauri Prime was brief but devastating. When the stealth fleet departed, the Council's primary staging area lay in ruins, its capability to launch reinforcements to Earth crippled. However, as the human forces departed, they intercepted disturbing communications. The hegemony ships at Centauri Prime were not like the others. Their crews consisted entirely of hegemony personnel, with no representatives from other Council races. The Council's supposedly unified military is actually controlled by the hegemony, Wells realized. They're using other Council races as a political shield while maintaining actual control of military operations. This information would prove vital to Earth's strategy. Back on Earth, Dr. Okafor presented her findings to Director Vega and President Torres in the secure war room. "I've decoded thousands of Council communications," she explained, displaying translated messages on the main screen. "What I found is shocking. Several Council races were coerced into supporting the war. The hegemony threatened economic sanctions and even military action against anyone who refused to join the attack." President Torres studied the evidence. "This confirms what Reynolds discovered. The hegemony is the real enemy, manipulating the other Council races. There's more," Okafor continued. "I found communication suggesting the hegemony has been eliminating political rivals across multiple species for years. Anyone who opposed their policies disappeared or died in accidents. This war isn't just about Earth. It's about the hegemony consolidating power over the entire galaxy. This revelation changed the strategic landscape. Earth wasn't fighting the united front of advanced civilizations they had feared, but rather a single aggressive species using others as pawns. We need to get this information to Reynolds on Tau Ceti," President Torres decided. "If he can show this to the neutral species and wavering Council members, we might turn this war around." The first major human victory came at the Battle of Procyon. Council forces, expecting an easy conquest of the human colony there, were ambushed by ships hiding in the system's dense asteroid field. The battle ended with 14 Council ships destroyed or captured, giving humanity access to valuable alien technology and, more importantly, prisoners who could provide intelligence. The interrogation of these prisoners revealed another crucial piece of information. Many of the Council troops had no desire to fight humans. They had been told Earth was developing superweapons to attack Council worlds. The hegemony had manufactured consent for war through lies and propaganda. As Earth's forces secured their first significant victory, Reynolds' diplomatic mission on Tau Ceti faced its greatest test. The evidence provided by Dr. Okafor had convinced 5 non-Council species to pledge support to Earth, but the others remained hesitant. During a critical negotiation session, Commander Zayler of the Virons received an urgent message. His silver skin paled as he read it. "What is it?" Reynolds asked. "The hegemony has deployed planet-killer weapons against your colony on Eden Prime," Zayler reported grimly. "They're escalating the conflict beyond conventional warfare." The chamber erupted in outrage. Even the most hesitant delegates were shocked by this violation of galactic law. Planet-killer weapons had been banned by common agreement for thousands of years. Their use against a civilian colony was an atrocity that could not be ignored. "This proves everything we've been saying," Reynolds declared, addressing the assembled delegates. "The hegemony isn't fighting for the Council's security. They're fighting for domination, and they'll destroy anyone who stands in their way, including their own allies eventually." The diplomatic breakthrough was immediate. All 12 neutral species signed agreements to support Earth, providing technology, intelligence, and safe harbors for human refugees. High conflict ignites. The Council moves against us. Humanity answers with wrath. General Natalia Rivera adjusted the artificial skin covering her natural features. The disguise technology transformed her human appearance into that of a Trilaxian, a species long subjugated by the hegemony. Looking in the mirror, she barely recognized herself with the blue-tinted skin and enlarged eyes. "The disguise will hold up to standard scanners," said Dr. Mercer, the technology specialist who had prepared her for the mission. "But avoid any medical examinations or deep scans." Rivera nodded. "How long will it last?" 7 standard days before the molecular structure begins to degrade. You need to be off the planet by then. The infiltration plan was risky but necessary. Earth's intelligence had identified Drovax's command world, Hegemoria, as the place where they might find answers about the mysterious superweapon under construction. Rivera's ship was disguised as a Tralaxian trading vessel carrying rare minerals. The Tralaxians were considered no threat to the hegemony after centuries of control, which made them ideal for Rivera's cover identity. "Remember, General," Dr. Mercer said, handing her a small device disguised as a Tralaxian religious symbol. "This will collect and decrypt their data. You just need to get it close to their central computer systems." Rivera secured the device to her clothing. "And my extraction?" "A Proximian vessel will be hiding in the asteroid belt at the edge of their system. Once you have the information, transmit the signal and they'll create a diversion for your escape." 2 days later, Rivera's ship approached Hegemoria. The massive planet was surrounded by defense platforms and military vessels. At the center of it all stood the Citadel, a fortress-like structure that served as both palace and military headquarters for High Commander Drovax. "Trading vessel Calthor requesting permission to dock," Rivera transmitted, using the Tralaxian language she had studied intensively. After a tense wait, the reply came. "Permission granted. Proceed to Commercial Dock 7. The ship passed through multiple security checkpoints before finally docking. Rivera gathered her trading goods, genuine rare minerals that would help maintain her cover, and prepared to disembark. "May the trade be profitable," she told her small crew of disguised human and Proximian agents. "If I'm not back in 26 hours, leave without me." The spaceport was busy with vessels from dozens of worlds, all conducting business under the watchful eyes of hegemony security forces. Rivera moved confidently, displaying her trading permits to guards who barely glanced at them. The hegemony's arrogance was working in her favor. They couldn't imagine anyone would dare infiltrate their homeworld. Her first objective was to meet a contact in the trading district who could provide access to higher levels of the Citadel. She found the designated shop, a small establishment selling technical components. "I seek calibration tools for Zerbian crystal arrays," she said, using the coded phrase. The shop owner, a thin Aldaran with 4 arms, nodded slightly. "Such tools are rare. Come to the back room." Once they were alone, the Aldaran's demeanor changed. "You're the one they sent? You're taking an incredible risk coming here." "We all are," Rivera replied. "What's the situation?" "Security is tighter than usual. Drovax has called all his top commanders to the Citadel for some kind of special announcement tomorrow. If you want access to their systems, that would be your best opportunity. Many security personnel will be reassigned to protect the gathering." The Aldaran provided her with forged credentials identifying her as a maintenance worker authorized to service environmental systems in the Citadel. "These will get you in," he explained. "But once inside, you're on your own." The next morning, Rivera approached the towering Citadel, its black metal surface reflecting the red light of Hegemoria's sun. She joined a group of maintenance workers entering through a service entrance, keeping her head down and mimicking their deferential body language. The credentials worked. She passed through the security scan without issue and was assigned to check atmospheric regulators on the 73rd level, not far from the Central Command Center. As she worked her way through the massive structure, Rivera observed the unprecedented activity. Hegemony officers rushed through corridors preparing for the gathering of commanders. Security was visible everywhere, but focused on protecting important areas rather than watching service workers. Using maintenance tunnels to move between levels, Rivera slowly worked her way closer to the central data hub. She placed small signal jammers at key points to create blind spots in the security system. Finally, after hours of careful movement, she reached a maintenance panel directly adjacent to the main server room. Through a ventilation grate, she could see the massive computer systems that contained the hegemony's most classified information. 2 guards stood at the entrance, but the room itself was empty. Rivera waited patiently until an alarm sounded from several levels away, a diversion created by one of her jammers malfunctioning at the perfect time. As the guards tensed and listened to their communicators, Rivera quickly removed the ventilation grate and slipped into the room. She approached the central console and attached her decryption device to an access port. The small light on the device turned from red to green as it began copying data. Rivera's heart pounded as she watched the progress indicator. 3 minutes to complete the download. The diversion wouldn't last long. 2 minutes remaining. Voices approached outside. 1 minute. The door began to open. Rivera yanked the device free the instant it signaled completion and dived back toward the ventilation shaft. She barely pulled the grate back into place before hegemony officers entered the server room. From her hiding place, Rivera could hear their conversation. The security breach was on level 68. Nothing critical was affected. Double-check everything anyway. Commander Drovax will be making the announcement in 2 hours and he wants no interruptions. What is this announcement about? Why call in every fleet commander? You haven't heard? The superweapon is nearly operational. Drovax is going to reveal its true purpose. Rivera's pulse quickened. This was exactly the information Earth needed. She had to get to the announcement. Using her maintenance credentials, Rivera made her way to a service area overlooking the grand hall where the gathering would take place. She found a position behind a ventilation panel that offered a clear view while keeping her hidden. The hall gradually filled with hegemony military leaders. Rivera counted at least 50 high-ranking commanders, representing every hegemony fleet in the galaxy. Whatever Drovax planned to announce, it was significant enough to pull their military leadership away from the ongoing war. A hush fell over the crowd as High Commander Drovax entered. Tall and imposing even among his own species, Drovax wore ceremonial armor that gleamed in the hall's lighting. He ascended to a raised platform and surveyed the assembled commanders. "My loyal officers," he began, his voice carrying easily through the massive space. "For generations, the hegemony has guided the Council of Seven, pushing lesser species toward order and progress. But our destiny has always been greater than mere leadership." Holographic displays activated around the hall, showing images of the massive construction project that had alarmed Earth's intelligence services. "Behold the Stellar Gateway," Drovax announced proudly, "not merely a weapon, but a door to power beyond imagination." The images zoomed in to show details of the massive structure. It appeared to be designed to focus enormous energy onto a single point in space. "Our ancestors left us prophecies," Drovax continued. "They spoke of a doorway to the realm of the First Ones, beings who mastered energy and matter, space and time, beings who ascended to godhood. The prophecies said only the worthy could open this door and claim their power." Rivera listened with growing concern. This wasn't just about military domination. Drovax had become obsessed with ancient myths. "For 1,000 years we searched for the key to opening this doorway. And now we have found it. The gateway harnesses the energy of a collapsing star to tear open the fabric between dimensions." The holographic display showed a simulation of the gateway in operation, directing energy at a point in space that began to fracture, creating a swirling portal. "The first test succeeded in creating a small temporary opening," Drovax said. "We glimpsed the other side, a universe of pure energy waiting to be claimed. In 1 month, the gateway will be fully operational, capable of creating a stable portal large enough for us to enter and claim the power that is our birthright." A commander near the front raised his hand. "High Commander, why continue the war with Earth when we're so close to this greater victory?" Drovax's expression darkened. "Because the prophecies also contained a warning. One species could prevent our ascension, a young race with the unique ability to disrupt the gateway. The descriptions match the humans perfectly. Their destruction is not merely desirable, it is necessary for our transcendence." Rivera had heard enough. This explained everything. The unprovoked attack on Earth, the urgency behind the hegemony's actions. They weren't just fighting for galactic domination. They genuinely believed humans posed a threat to their quasi-religious quest for power. Conflict ignites. The Council moves against us. Humanity answers with wrath. The combined fleet of human and allied ships gathered at the edge of the Cygnus Nebula. It was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. Over 200 vessels ranging from small, agile fighters to massive battleships. Alongside them flew ships from 7 non-Council species and the breakaway Viren fleet. Admiral Reynolds stood on the bridge of the Earth flagship Defiance, studying tactical displays showing the fleet's formation, 5 weeks had passed since the Council's initial attack on Earth. What began as an existential threat to humanity had evolved into a galactic struggle against hegemony domination. Final ships are in position, Admiral, reported Captain Hernandez. All vessels report ready for jump. Reynolds nodded. Begin the final briefing. Across the fleet, commanders gathered their crews to review the mission one last time. Operation Thunderbolt was the most ambitious military action in human history, a coordinated assault on the hegemony's stellar. Gateway General Rivera's intelligence had revealed the true purpose of the massive structure. If completed, it would allow the hegemony to access the power of another dimension, potentially giving them godlike abilities. The structure was already 80% complete, with Drovax pushing construction crews to work around the clock. On the Defiance's main screen, President Torres addressed the fleet from Earth. Despite weeks of warfare, her resolve remained unshaken. Soldiers of Earth and our honored allies, she began. Today we face the greatest challenge any of us have ever known. The hegemony seeks not just conquest, but power that no mortal species should possess. If they succeed, they will reshape reality itself according to their will. The President's image was replaced by technical schematics of the gateway. General Rivera's intelligence has identified 3 critical weaknesses in the structure. Strike teams will target these points while our main fleet engages their defenses. Reynolds took over the briefing. The assault will have 3 phases. First, our main fleet will engage the hegemony defense forces to draw their attention. Second, specialized strike teams will infiltrate the gateway using stealth technology to plant quantum disruptors at key structural points. Finally, once the disruptors are in place, all forces will withdraw to a safe distance before detonation. He highlighted a portion of the schematic. The most critical target is the central power core. It channels energy from the artificial star collapse that powers the gateway. Commander Wells will lead the team responsible for planting disruptors there. Wells, standing nearby, nodded grimly. The mission would take his team into the heart of the enemy stronghold with minimal backup. What about Drovax? Asked one of the Allied commanders. If he escapes, he'll just build another gateway. I'll lead a special operations team to locate and capture Drovax, Reynolds answered. Intelligence suggests he'll be overseeing the final stages of construction personally. The stakes couldn't be higher. If they failed, the hegemony would gain power beyond imagination. If they succeeded, the greatest threat the galaxy had ever faced would be eliminated. One final note, Reynolds said. Our scientists have confirmed what Drovax fears. Humans do possess a unique quantum resonance pattern that can disrupt the gateway technology. This is why they targeted Earth first. Each strike team will include at least one human operative, whose presence will help destabilize the gateway systems. As the briefing concluded, Reynolds met privately with Kira, who would be joining his team for the mission to capture Drovax. Are you sure about this? She asked. The Proximian Council has offered you asylum. You don't have to risk your life again. Reynolds smiled grimly. This started with Drovax's decision to attack Earth. It needs to end with him facing justice. Across the fleet, final preparations were underway. Soldiers said quiet goodbyes to friends, knowing many would not return. Engineers made last-minute adjustments to weapons and shields. Medical teams prepared for casualties. On Earth, Dr. Okafor made a critical discovery about the gateway technology. She rushed to the communications center to reach the fleet before they departed. This is urgent, she told the communications officer. I need to speak with Admiral Reynolds immediately. When Reynolds appeared on her screen, Okafor explained her findings. The gateway isn't just opening a door to another universe. It's designed to harvest energy from collapsing stars to power the transition, but the process is fundamentally unstable. If the gateway activates even partially, it could create a cascade reaction. What kind of reaction? Reynolds asked. A rift in space-time that could expand exponentially. It might consume the entire star system, possibly more. This information made their mission even more critical. They weren't just preventing the hegemony from gaining power. They were averting a potential catastrophe. At the designated hour, the fleet activated their jump drives, disappearing from normal space in flashes of light. When they reappeared, they faced the massive stellar gateway. The structure was even more imposing than the intelligence report suggested, a colossal ring surrounding an artificial star containment system. Around it, hegemony warships stood guard, immediately moving to combat positions as the Allied fleet appeared. All ships, commence attack pattern Alpha, Reynolds ordered. Fighter squadrons engage their patrol vessels. Cruisers target their defensive platforms. The space around the gateway erupted in battle. Energy weapons crisscrossed the void as ships maneuvered for position. The human fleet's quantum disruptors proved effective against hegemony shields. But the enemy had adapted since their first encounters, developing countermeasures that reduced their effectiveness. As the main battle raged, specialized stealth vessels broke from the fleet, slipping past the hegemony defenses toward the gateway itself. Commander Wells led his team toward the central power core, while other strike teams targeted secondary systems. Reynolds and Kira, along with a small team of elite operatives, headed for the command center where Drovax was believed to be directing the battle. The infiltration proceeded according to plan until alarms suddenly blared throughout the gateway. "Intruders detected in Section 14, announced an automated system. "All security personnel respond. They have updated their sensors to detect our stealth technology," Kira realized. Reynolds quickly adjusted their approach. "All strike teams abandon stealth protocols. Move to direct assault. We need to reach our targets before they can organize a response." Throughout the massive structure, human and allied strike teams engaged hegemony security forces in fierce combat. The narrow corridors and maintenance tunnels became battlegrounds as both sides fought desperately for control. Wells' team faced the heaviest resistance as they approached the power core. Hegemony forces had concentrated their defenses around this critical system. "We're pinned down 50 meters from the objective," Wells reported over the secure channel. "Heavy opposition." In the command center, Drovax received updates on the battle with growing fury. The gateway was nearly operational. He needed just a few more hours to complete the final calibrations. The human attack had come at the worst possible time. "Divert all power to the gateway systems," he ordered his subordinates. "Begin the activation sequence now." "But High Commander," one officer protested, "the system isn't fully stabilized. Activating now could do it." Drovax roared. "I would rather risk destruction than let the humans stop us when we're so close." Throughout the structure, warning lights flashed as power surged into the gateway systems. The artificial star at the center of the ring began to pulsate, its containment field fluctuating dangerously. On the Defiance, sensors detected the power surge. "They're activating the gateway prematurely," the science officer reported. "Energy readings are off the scale and rising." Reynolds, fighting his way through hegemony guards with his strike team, received the update with alarm. "Wells, we're out of time. You need to reach that power core now, whatever the cost." "Understood," Wells replied. Then to his team, "Cover me." As his team laid down suppressive fire, Wells charged the hegemony position, blocking their path. Energy blasts scorched his armor, but he pushed through, throwing specialized grenades that temporarily disrupted the enemy's neural systems. The path momentarily clear, Wells and his remaining team members raced toward the power core. They reached the massive chamber housing the pulsating energy matrix that powered the gateway. "Set the charges," Wells ordered. 20 seconds and we're gone." His engineers quickly placed quantum disruptors at key structural points, setting the timers. Just as they finished, a new wave of hegemony troops poured into the chamber. "Go!" Wells shouted to his team. "I'll hold them off." Meanwhile, Reynolds' team had fought their way to the command center. They breached the doors to find Drovax standing before a massive control console, his hands moving across holographic displays as he rushed to complete the gateway activation. "It's over." "Drovax," Reynolds called out, weapon raised. "Shut it down." The hegemony leader turned, his scaled face contorted with rage. "You're too late, human. The process has begun. In moments I will ascend to godhood." Behind him, the displays showed the gateway powering up, energy surging toward the focal point where the dimensional rift would form. Everyone, and Eve,